Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman, Lowell Nelson, campaignforliberty.org on your radio and on your TV. How do you like that, ladies and gentlemen? We're working on getting Lowell's mug on TV, man. You know what I'm saying? Got to have his face there. Got to see what he's thinking, and got to see his laugh and his smile. And hi, Lowell. Welcome to the broadcast, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me, Sam. Yeah, if I would just go down and consummate this deal to get a faster internet, bigger pipe to my house, we'd be in business. But I just haven't taken time to do that. But we'll get to it. We'll get her done.
Right.
We'll get her done.
Well, before we get to the real topics of the day, it's a sad day in America. Supreme Court rejects Kim Davis and her bid to overturn same-sex marriage. We had hoped the courts would adjudicate that properly, but they don't understand what marriage really is. Marriage, by God's law, is between one man, one woman. Male and female created them and put them together to procreate and have children, and that's what marriage is. And they've perverted marriage. Same-sex can't produce children. And I know they manipulate that and claim that. Anyway, bottom line is it's a sad day. Lowell, your thoughts? Then we'll move on.
Yeah, if the state were not involved in the marriage licensure, the licensure of marriages, if it were left to churches, to religion, then it wouldn't be a big deal, right? I mean, the reason marriage has been, I think, amended. What's the right word?
Perverted.
Bastardized? I don't know. Perverted is because marriage shows up on a person's income tax return, right? And based on your status, you either pay more tax or less tax. And so, if it weren't on there, then we would never have these discussions. We wouldn't even be having this discussion about marriage.
And we could have the general government get out of marriage because they have no authority to be involved in marriage in the first place. They were never delegated to that authority. The reason government got involved in marriage in the beginning was they were racist and they wanted to stop, blacks from marrying whites and all this other kind of stuff. So the history is sordid, to say the least. But at the end of the day, it's not a general government authority at all. So we agree that, hey, this shouldn't be, the Supreme Court shouldn't be really involved in this at all. However, I would say this, though. We should stick with God's law, let government create a level playing field and have contracts be honored, and then let everybody do whatever they want to, and let churches and put it in your Bible that you're married. It doesn't need to be a government institution in the first place, but there we are. We see this, and I'm telling you right now that as we allow this to stand nationwide and we double down on the perversion of same-sex marriage, we will reap the whirlwinds. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just telling you now. You cannot turn your back on God's laws and have it go well, Lowell. Let's be very clear about that.
You're absolutely right, Sam. In fact, I wrote a major thesis my senior year at college on the miscegenation. Basically, that's the mixing of races and how that, in the early days, the colonists, that's when miscegenation became a law. They've been passing laws, and they said we don't want to mix the races, and then from that point on, it just continued on, to become a government activity. But the point is well made, the use is made, and that is that the general government should have nothing to say about marriage. That's truly a domestic issue, something that the states have plenary power, meaning complete authority for, and the general government should, butt out, keep its nose out of there. It has no business, no authority whatsoever from the states. The states did not vest in the general government any authority for police power, and basically police power means all the domestic issues for which the states have complete authority. Sam?
And let's be very clear, whenever the government is given responsibility or steals responsibility for something that it doesn't have authority to do, in other words, it's not the proper venue, it's not appropriately delegated, et cetera. Whenever they do that, whenever they take power on themselves, it always goes south. Every time.
Well, in anything government does, it goes south.
Yeah, but sometimes there's delegated appropriate responsibilities for government to do, and when they carry that out, it can go well. So Remember, government should be whoever, whatever government governs closest to the people governs best, for example. If you follow principles and appropriate delegations by the supreme law of the land, separating the president's power from the congressional power from the court's power, separating the general government limited powers from the states' much broader powers, let the constitutional republics operate independently, except for the delegated authority given to the general government to bind the nation together and to deal with foreign entities, etc. I mean, it can go well if you obey the delegations and the proper authority. It's when they take power unto themselves and or mix power, meaning, ignore Congress like the president's been doing or whatever the case may be, then it always goes south. But you know what? Folks on Team Rand are starting to make a big difference as well. And Rand emailed me with a pretty good email that I thought was worthy of discussion. Lowell?
Yeah, it was fun. Sam, you forwarded that email on to me, and I watched all of the clips. Basically, his interviews with various people, Fox Business, News, sources, several other podcasters interviewed him. And I guess the main ideas that they discussed in these various interviews, one was about the Obamacare subsidies and why the government was shut down. And the second really popular topic was the Trump tariffs, how the Supreme Court was going to rule on that and what Rand thought about that. So those are the two things that I needled out of the email that you sent me. And I do want to talk about both of them. The first was Obamacare subsidies, right? I mean, Rand Paul floated this idea of allowing big companies like Walmart to sell health insurance to, little people like us.
Why not? Why shouldn't they be able to? Why should the government have control? Again, the government should honor contracts and get out of the way. If I want to have somebody help me with my medical needs for my physical body, why can't I contract with anybody I want to anywhere to accomplish that?
Exactly right. And Rand believes that allowing big companies like Walmart to do that very thing would actually drive prices down for a couple of reasons. Number one, because companies the size of Walmart would have more bargaining power. Because they would enroll millions of people probably, most likely, if they're going to get better care, better services by enrolling with Walmart, then the price, that'll drive down the prices. And of course, if they didn't like Walmart health insurance, they could go to Costco or they could go, to some other company like that. And then whatever company provides the best service at the lowest cost, they are going to get a lot of business. And, government doesn't, like you say, Sam, should not be involved in dictating, what companies may and what companies may not sell health insurance, right?
Yeah, what if I start a company called Cousin Sam, because I'm not Uncle Sam, see, Cousin Sam, and you want to get Cousin Sam insurance. So you should be able to do that. I should be able to go in and negotiate for you, buddy, and put together a plan. And that's the problem. Here's what people don't understand about the insurance industry. Government, again, got into it because they put a market cap on how much people could earn back in World War II kind of times. And then they said, well, we want to give people more. And they said, well, you can't. And then they said, well, why don't we give benefits? And then they started giving other things, health insurance and 401ks and all these other ways to kind of manipulate. And the government just seems to find themselves at the center of it. Now, the reason you can't go to the healthcare provider of your choice and get a price on something is because they don't know the prices. Why don't they know the prices? Because they have to go back and check the government price card first. And then every insurance company prices off of that government price card. The government controls all pricing for medical issues. If you don't believe me, go study it. And you say, well, no, Sam, my private company has negotiated their own rates. Yeah, but it's all based on this rate card. And nobody can know until they go in. And they say, what's the government price for this procedure? Great. What's the negotiated price for the insurance company? Sam, have you met your deductible? Da-da-da. If you're not involved in that special privilege group of government and or insurance, then you're on the open market of here's what we'll give you for cash. But it's we got to check the government price card first. They've literally pretended that insurance is private, but they've lied to us because they control the core pricing, and everything is based on that core pricing. I don't know how familiar you are with this, Lowell, but that's really the case.
Well, I'm sure you're exactly right, Sam. No, I have not done much study of that. I do know that, what you're saying rings true with me, though. And also Rand made the point in one of his interviews that because of the subsidies, the government, both through Obamacare and also through the COVID subsidies, they basically increase the prices because, when government gives out free money, basically, to, for healthcare and for for healthcare, then those costs go up because the healthcare companies just soak it up. They know the government's going to fund more of the costs, and so they increase their prices, and that's one of the reasons that prices continues to go up is because of these government subsidies. So
and it will not get any better.
Marketplace.
It will not get any better until you get us off the government insurance pricing card. It will not get any better because they set the floor, and then with all the subsidies, then they set kind of the rates. Nobody gets a rate as good as the government, et cetera, and it's just impossible for people to do billing because it's all based on codes and it's all based on this government scorecard. The basic scorecard is based on Medicaid, Medicare. Anyway, it gets complex. I don't want to bore people with the insurance details. I'm just telling you that the answer is to get government out of your insurance. Trump says he has a plan for that. I pray it's a good one. We'll keep an eye on that ball. We'll continue to talk to Lowell Nelson in seconds. CampaignForLiberty.org. You're watching and listening to Liberty Roundtable Live, syndicated by LovingLiberty.net.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Liberty Roundtable Live. My name's Lowell Nelson. I'm riding shotgun this morning with your host, Sam Bushman. We've been talking about this awesome email from Team Rand. A number of the items in this email were simply clips from news shows and podcast interviews with Rand. And one of the things that he mentioned was, the second thing, the main topic that they were asking him about were these tariffs, Trump's tariffs. And whether or not he thought it was constitutional or not, or it was a good idea or not. Well, Rand correctly answered that we really need to be following the Constitution, and the Constitution says all taxes must originate in the U.S. House. He said the tariff is a tax, and that should not be set by the president. And of course, I agree. That was a good answer because Rand does recognize the fact that the U.S. House is where all taxes must originate.
I agree 100%, but if Mike Johnson would have doubled down and bottom line worked towards codifying President Trump's leadership, we wouldn't have a problem here. So it's not that we disagree with tariffs or that Rand Paul disagrees with tariffs. We're just going about it all wrong. You can't obliterate the checks and balances is the point, right?
That's exactly the point, yeah. And Andrew Napolitano had a great column about this topic this week, too. He writes this, quote, "The questions before the court ask if Congress delegated away to the president the power to tax." And if it did, was that delegation constitutional? And continuing the quote, he says, the Department of Justice argues that both of these questions should be answered in the affirmative. However, it should answer both questions, and this is Napolitano talking, he's saying it should answer both questions in the negative, as there is simply no statute in which Congress has authorized the President to impose tariffs on his own, and under the Constitution, only Congress may impose taxes, end of quote. So Napolitano gets this exactly right too, Sam. Got Rand Paul and Andrew Napolitano on the right side of this issue. It's not that they disagree with tariffs, they just are saying that the President may not impose a tax, which the tariff is a tax. Well, so the DOJ is arguing that the Congress empowered the President with this authority via the National Emergencies Act of 1976 and also the International Emergency Powers Act of 1977. But I say, Sam, first and foremost, I say that any act of Congress that is not aligned with or in harmony with the Constitution is null and void from its inception.
And the reason it's null and void, ladies and gentlemen, is we the people have the ultimate authority. We delegated authority to Congress, and we listed what their authority is. They have no authority to delegate that authority to somebody else. That's the problem.
Exactly right. I mean, Congress can no more delegate authority to the President, this authority to tax to the President, than the President can delegate to the Supreme Court, say, his authority to wage a war that's declared by Congress, right? I mean, authority that is given to each branch of government cannot be delegated to another branch, for that would subvert the separation of powers doctrine established by those who wrote and ratified the Constitution. That was their big worry, by the way.
Some would say, well, hey, you know what? The Congress is the law-making body. They made a new law, Sam. No. They don't have authority to make laws that conflict with the Supreme Law. If they want to change laws that conflict with the Supreme Law, then they have to go through a process, which they never did in these cases. And that's why we have a problem with it. Lowell.
Absolutely right. Yeah, we have a big problem. I mean, again, the whole idea, Madison, Hamilton, Washington, every single one of them, Jefferson, they did not want the powers, the authority to be held, all of the authority held in the hands of one person or one body. They divided that power because, in fact, Madison used the word jealousy. He depends on, and the framers depend on the jealousies of the three branches of government to ensure that they don't give power up to the other branch of government. And what has this Congress done instead over the past 100 years or so? They have given up authority, and they've been trying to delegate authority to the other branches, and they have no right to do so. It rests squarely in their hands, and they should be called on the carpet any time and every time they attempt to delegate away power and authority that the Constitution gives to them, and they have no authority to redelegate that away. Sam?
When they're caught doing it, they should be replaced next election cycle for dereliction of duty and violating their oaths of office. That's my humble opinion, to which I'm entitled to. But you know what? We have more checks and balances violations going on. Headline from Ron Paul says the Rubio Doctrine. The neocons, we're back. Oh, boy. Horror film. Lowell?
Yeah, it is horrible development. According to recent news reports, the two major Trump foreign policy shifts last week are the handiwork of Marco Rubio, the President's Secretary of State and acting National Security Advisor. As with all neocon plans, they will be big on promises and small on delivery, end of quote. That's how Ron Paul began his column a couple of weeks ago. Well, what are these two major policy shifts? If you break it down, basically it's the shift in the Ukraine-Russia situation, right? I mean, because Trump is basically finally taking ownership of the war between Ukraine and Russia. Up until now, he's tried to portray himself as a mediator, right, between Russia and Ukraine. But because Trump sanctioned Russia, he really can't do that much anymore. He is an antagonist in this fight. And unfortunately, he's taking the wrong approach. He continues to give him money and military equipment, and And so I don't know. It's pretty sad that he is reneging on his promises to keep us out of war, to end the war. Right? He said he'd end that war in a day or two or a week or so, but he's not doing it. What were these sanctions that I just mentioned? Well, basically the U.S. would be sanctioning Russia's two largest oil companies until Russia declares a ceasefire. Well, Sam, you and I both know that's not going to happen. So what this amounts to is a reversal of policy back to the neocon position and an escalation of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia.
Well, we would hope that there would be kind of a retooling for Trump, that he would learn. But after John Bolton's disastrous stint in the Trump administration, the first go-round, promises were made big time that the second Trump administration would be different, that it would be neocon free. But no. Instead, the neocons are back. The neocons are a disaster, and you're really seeing just nothing but a repeat of this. Trump, ran on peace. They usually run on peace because they know that's where the American people want to see them. But then at the end of the day, they get, coaxed into it by the war hawks. They get coaxed into it by the military-industrial complex, and they get trapped into it by agreements made by previous presidents, and then they get trapped into it by their, statements. Dr. Scott Bradley warns that whenever a president's in his second term or his sunset term or whatever you want to call it, lame duck term, they always internationally melt down and blow it on the international scale. We're seeing this happen to Trump as well. It's a tragic reality check, and we hope to stop it is why we bring it up, Lowell.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sam. The second major policy shift is what the U.S. regime is doing in Venezuela, right? I mean, I think the number of boats that have been obliterated in the Caribbean is like 19 or something. I was just reading on antiwar.com that number. It's not just a handful anymore. It's like in the teens.
But there's no authority in the first place, though. Congress has authority over market reprisal and war and everything else. Congress has been sitting at home twiddling their thumbs. Donald has no authority to do this at all. He's, in my opinion, bordering on war criminal stuff with this, Lowell.
Yeah, totally agree.
And the reason I say bordering is because the courts could come back and say, hey, he has temporary authority, or, I can't say 100%, but to me, you don't have authority to do this, and you're doing this internationally, whether we agree legally internally or not, whether it's war crimes. Other nations are going to say, look at this hegemonous America who thinks they're God and king and can do whatever they want to without any, investigations, protections, rule of law, etc. You see Netanyahu behaving this way in Israel. You also see President Trump behaving this way in the United States. It's not good, Lowell. It's disaster.
For sure. Ron Paul put it this way when he said, quote, the global war on terror has been rebranded as the hemispheric war on narco-terror. And the U.S. military-industrial complex is rubbing its hands in anticipation of a windfall, end of quote. And I might add, Sam, that numerous members of the U.S. Congress are rubbing their hands together in anticipation of the bribes, well, they call them campaign contributions, that they will receive from the armament manufacturers who stand to profit so handsomely from these conflicts. Well, it truly is a racket, Sam, just as Major General Smedley Butler said it was. Ron Paul ends his column this way. He warns us, quote, after John Bolton's disastrous stint in the first Trump administration, promises were made that the second Trump administration would be neocon-free. Instead, the neocons are back, and I realize you just said this, Sam, earlier a few minutes ago. Unless President Trump wakes up soon, the neocons will destroy his second term and maybe the country. End of quote.
This is, whether I said it before or not, that's worth repeating because people really need to understand what's going on. And all I'm telling you is this, folks, no war. We've got to stop the wars. We don't do well in the sight of God when we're pro-death, when we're using filthy lucre to build the military-industrial complex, when we pretend we're king of the block or king of the world. That doesn't go well for a constitutional republic that should be a light on a hill, pointing people to God, family, and country globally. Our greatest export should be the supreme law of our land, the Constitution for the United States of America, helping countries understand you don't want to be a democracy, you don't want to be a monarch, you want to be a constitutional republic looking to God for solutions. I'm Sam Bushman, Lowell Nelson with me. Hang tight, we got a lot more, folks. By the way, who was this Major General Smedley Butler that Lowell talked about? We'll brief you on it in seconds. It's an incredible story. You got to hear it. lovingliberty.net. You're watching Liberty Roundtable live.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news from Town Hall, I'm Rich Thomason. President Trump's former personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is among dozens of associates being granted full, complete, and unconditional pardons by the president. They have been accused of trying to overturn Mr. Trump's 2020 election loss. The pardons are said to continue the process of national reconciliation. 8 Senate Democrats crossed party lines last night. They joined Republicans in a test vote, passing a bill that would end the government shutdown, funding the government through January. The Democrat defections provided the 60 votes needed to advance the bill, which, once it wins final Senate approval, will go to the House for a vote there.
From a truly precarious situation we are in with regard to air travel, to the fact that our staffs have been working without pay for a full 40 days now, all of us, Republicans and Democrats, who support this bill know that the time to act is now.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune making a successful pitch for approval of the bill, which passed on a vote of 60-40. Independent Senator Bernie Sanders not pleased that the bill does not extend Obamacare subsidies. That's something the Democrats had been demanding.
Over 20 million Americans are going to see at least a doubling in their premiums in the Affordable Care Act. In my state of Vermont and throughout this country, for certain groups of people, it will be a tripling and a quadrupling of their premiums.
The Supreme Court's landmark ruling legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide will stand. The High Court has rejected a call to overturn the decision, turning away an appeal from former Kentucky court clerk Kim Davis. A blast of the season's first frigid air is bearing down on much of the U.S., bringing snow to parts of the country and plunging temperatures as far south as Florida. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 10 points. The Nasdaq ahead 314 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I thought about it for a while before I ordered them, but I love the smell of them. So it's a good thing.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off your first preferred set with free shipping as a new preferred customer by using discount code BALANCE.
Dad, can you make him stop?
Honey, he needs to practice.
He's been at it an hour.
Well, just trying to be patient.
Dad, it sounds like a cat calling for help or something.
Worse, a basement full of cats.
Yeah.
You know, hon, it is a little hard on the ears.
Not you, too.
Well, maybe we can all play a game. Andrew, do you want to play a board game? How about we watch a video? Hide and seek? Oh, I don't know, I give up.
Maybe we could all just sneak out of the house.
Honey, he's 9 years old. We can't leave him home alone.
We could make him practice with a sock.
Well, I guess we'll have to get some ice cream.
Did I hear someone say ice cream?
Family. Isn't it about time?
Oh, I see the practice hasn't hurt your ears.
Well, I'm a serious musician.
Funny that you never seem to get better on that thing.
Works every time.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Hey, where'd all these cats come from?
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lowell Nelson here, riding shotgun this morning with Sam Bushman, your host on Liberty Roundtable Live. He, just before the break, asked the question, who was Major General Smedley D. Butler? It's a great question, and we are going to answer that right now. I've heard this name for a lot of years, but until just a few nights ago, I never knew much more than his name and the name of his most famous speech, pamphlet, which became a pamphlet. War is a racket. That's the name of his speech. That's the name of his pamphlet. Well, I read more about him. Wikipedia says that General Smedley Butler, Darlington Butler, by the way, that's what the D stands for, Smedley Darlington Butler, also known as the Fighting Quaker. I didn't know he was a Quaker. Was the most decorated Marine in U.S. history. Wow. I thought Bo Greitz was the most decorated. Maybe he was in the Army, though, not a Marine. Anyway, he was the only person, speaking of Butler again, the only person to have been awarded a Marine Corps Brevet Medal and the Medal of Honor twice for separate military actions. He had also become an unrelenting voice against the business of war. And now I think that's a pretty accurate description from Wikipedia. And so, what was his most famous quote? It's probably this one right here. Quote, "If a nation goes over here to fight, then we'll fight. I'm sorry, if a nation comes over here to fight, meaning comes onto our mainland, then we'll fight. The trouble with America," continuing the quote here, "the trouble with America is that when the dollar only earns 6% over here, then it gets restless and goes overseas to get 100%. And then the flag follows the dollar, and the soldiers follow the flag." And that came from a speech in 1933 by Major General Smedley Butler. Well, I then visited a website called AmericansWhoTellTheTruth.org, and I read something else from Major Butler, or Major General Butler. I quote, he says, quote, "I served in all commissioned ranks from second lieutenant to major general. And during that period, I spent most of my time being a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street, and for the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer for capitalism. I suspected I was just a part of the racket all the time, and now I am sure of it." Well, end of quote. Well, that was the attention getter, and so I read the entire biographical sketch of Major General Smedley D. Butler on that website. Again, that website is AmericansWhoTellTheTruth.org. And so here are some of the highlights from that website, from his biography, or from the biography that's posted on that website. Raised by prominent Quaker parents, Smedley Butler defied his pacifist lineage by joining the Marine Corps just before his 17th birthday, right? Because Quakers, they don't join wars, right? But he defied his lineage, and he joined the Marine Corps. He served in Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, and Haiti, earning his Medals of Honor in Mexico and in Haiti. Butler was known for his leadership and commitment to the welfare of the men under his command. He rose quickly through the ranks to become, at age 48, one of the youngest major generals. Now, prior to World War II, Butler spoke out against what he saw as admiration for fascism, and for Italy's leader Benito Mussolini. He was punished for telling an unfavorable story about Mussolini, but avoided court-martial by accepting a reprimand. But because of his rank, he was able to write his own reprimand, and he never apologized to Mussolini.
Bottom line is the guy was an American hero. He stood up for the truth. He laid out war in an appropriate way that, you know what, when are we justified and when are we not before God Almighty and before a candid world, as the Declaration of Independence taught? And the answer is, when we go chasing people in other countries, we're on unstable, unjust, immoral wars because we're not protecting life, property, our families. Okay, we're off on a political bender designed to reward one party over the other, designed to enrich the military-industrial complex, designed to, create mischief around the world. The only real solution is, hey, we're justified in fighting when someone comes onto our nation, onto our soil. Then we got to protect our wives, our children, our families, our way of life, our religion, our freedom to worship as we will. But other than that, we have no game in the fight, and we need to stop it. And the sooner we follow this gentleman's advice, the better off we are. Okay, Butler was right. He's right then and he's right now. Why people can't pay attention to this and understand this, I don't know. Why go look for people to slay in foreign nations? You come here, we'll clean your clock. Okay? Don't violate our sovereignty. Other than that, we're going to, for the most part, stay out of it. That's really what we need to do. Now, there's a few preemptive actions in the Constitution. That's why there's declarations of war if necessary. That's why there's mark and reprisal and other things short of war. But we've got to have Congress at the helm, and we've got to realize we shouldn't be following the flag around the world with boogeymen to fight. Right now, Donald Trump's about to embrace one boogeyman over another one. In so many places, it's not even funny. And it's got to stop. He's got to stop doing this. The problem is he's surrounded by war hawks like Marco Rubio and others that just love war. It's kind of like a Dick Cheney reenactment almost, it seems to me, Lowell.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sam. This website, I recommend to all of our listeners to go. I mean, there's marvelous, marvelous quotes. Can't take time this morning to read all of them, but just one sobering one, Sam. Talking about the United States decisions to fight these wars, he says, how many of these war millionaires shouldered a rifle? The general public shoulders the bill, and what is this bill? Newly placed gravestones, mangled bodies, shattered minds. For a great many years, he writes, as a soldier, I had a suspicion that war was a racket. Not until I retired to civil life did I fully realize it. And now I see the international war clouds gathering. He's talking about World War II. And as they are today, I must face it and speak out. And so, I mean, he's just underscoring the fact that the people who decide to take us to war, they are not the soldiers. They've never shouldered a rifle. They don't know the cost to the human soul that war is. And it's just really sad that we continue to fight these wars for the money that flows into the campaign coffers of our Congress critters, to fund these wars, these armament
manufacturers. And what we've done is we've created sanitized media bites that we play over and over to make us believe we're the heroes, that we're the just victors, that we're doing things to care for and protect other people, and we get this sanitized, manipulated, dishonest view. Okay, there's only two things we should fight for: one, our homes, and the other is the Bill of Rights. War is indeed a racket, ladies and gentlemen. It always has been. It's possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, and surely the most vicious of all. And that's why it's really important that we stop this, that we call it out for what it is. I wish we had plain-speaking folks today like Butler was. We do in Ron Paul. We do in, I think, Rand Paul. I think we do in Sam Bushman and Lowell Nelson, and we need that really to go viral for more people to say, look, no war. Doesn't make sense. We can't afford it. All it does is engender hate around the world. It doesn't protect us. In fact, it makes us more vulnerable. The more we promote war, the more it becomes a national security crisis in and of itself. Lowell?
Yeah, and I'm not sure what you think about General Michael Flynn, but I think General Flynn and General Butler, they would get along very well together. They both speak out against war and about these conflicts, and I think Michael Flynn might be the closest thing nowadays to the Smedley Butler of World War I and World War II.
100% agreed. Anyway, I commend these gentlemen for speaking out, and we want to be, we want to carry that ball because we believe that peace is the solution around the world, not war or peace through war. Peace through peace. Imagine that. Jailed in America, free speech. We take it very domestic now, Lowell. Judge Andrew Napolitano.
Great, another column. He underscores the importance of free speech in this column, as he has done for many, many other columns. Quote, the First Amendment restrains only the general government. It says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. This means that no government may evaluate the content of speech and punish what it doesn't want to hear. Well, he then talks about a fellow sitting in jail in Perry County, Tennessee, a retired police officer, 20 years on the force, who posted things on Facebook that angered the sheriff in that county, and so that sheriff just arrested him and jailed him, right? Just for the things he posted on Facebook, Sam. Now, there's a pretty big backstory on this, but basically, you know, Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and then there were people who mourned his assassination, and you know, like I did, and like you did. But this fellow in Tennessee, this Larry Bouchard, he began to criticize people who were mourning Charlie Kirk's death. And now, the reason I bring this up is because, see, Judge Knapp cannot be criticized as being partisan. He's standing up for the rights of someone on the left who is saying and writing things with which Judge Knapp and I do not agree, right? I don't agree.
And I don't agree with this gentleman either, but I defend his right to say it, Lowell.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of this column, Sam. It's a great column.
We're going to break it down in more detail in seconds, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Lowell Nelson, campaignforliberty.org, and yours truly, Sam Bushman, Liberty Roundtable, syndicated by lovingliberty.net. Hang tight. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
Back with you live, Lowell Nelson, Sam Bushman, breaking it down. We're talking about this general idea, ladies and gentlemen. What's the idea, Lowell? Let's kind of lay this out. I think it's really important what Judge Napolitano is speaking of. It's a whole idea here. He's using a case example, but the idea is what? Free speech?
Yeah, freedom of speech,
that's
right?
The idea, right?
And that's the main idea. Being able to criticize the government that's the main idea as a freedom of speech. But in this case, this gentleman was criticizing those who were mourning the death of Charlie Kirk. So the sheriff of Perry County, Tennessee, and by the way, folks, this is exactly why you need to elect a sheriff in your county who will defend you against tyranny, not someone who will bring tyranny to your doorstep. But this sheriff in Perry County, Tennessee, brought tyranny to the doorstep of this fellow, Larry Bouchard, who was critical of anybody who was mourning the death of Charlie Kirk. Now, and so if I were living in that county, he would have probably arrested me too, right? Because, no, I'm sorry, he would have arrested. I mean, if I lived in that county, I would have been mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, and then this Bouchard would have criticized me, but the sheriff went and arrested Bouchard simply because of his postings on Facebook. Now, it doesn't make sense to me, but he ordered the arrest of Bouchard, and the judge imposed a bail of $2 million. Can you believe that? So Bouchard's lawyers requested a reduction in bail, which I think is something reasonable, or at least within reach of the accused. And so what did the judge do? Well, he postponed the bail hearing to December. And so, I mean, this justice delayed is justice denied, right? I mean, that's what I say. A bail hearing.
Yeah, the Constitution calls for a speedy trial, Lowell.
That's exactly right. And a bail hearing usually lasts about 15 minutes, by the way. And so Bouchard is going to be stuck in jail for more than a month because the judge cannot schedule a 15-minute hearing any sooner than that. I mean, this is just
yeah, the judge should be impeached. The sheriff should be removed from office next election cycle, or if there's any shorter venue to get that done, like a recall or anything else, those should be done. Look, I disagree with this guy and what he's saying, 100%. But I also agree he has every right to say it. You know, if people want to criticize blind people, I, as a blind person, I'm saying, hey, they can do that. I think it's bad taste. I think it's, but nevertheless, let the court of public opinion decide. At the end of the day, though, let people have their free speech. He can think and believe and say what he wants to say, unless he's violently threatening somebody or promoting illegal activity. You got to leave the guy alone. I think we need to somehow work on getting him out of jail, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
he's a political prisoner, Lowell.
I think we should call Perry County, Tennessee, and just argue that he should that hearing should be moved up, and let him make bail. He doesn't deserve to be sitting in jail for over a month simply because of what he wrote on Facebook. Now, Napolitano spends the rest of his column defining free speech, and so I'm just going to quote the essence of what he wrote here. It's good to remind ourselves what this free speech is. Quote, "The whole purpose of the First Amendment is to keep the general government out of the business of evaluating the contents of speech. All public speech is presumed to be lawful. All innocuous speech is absolutely protected, and all speech is innocuous when there is time for more speech to challenge or rebut it. Moreover, if speech is ambiguous, meaning is it a threat or not, and there is any rational, lawful interpretation of it, the speech alone cannot form the basis of a criminal prosecution, as the lawful interpretation trumps the ambiguity." Well, so that's end of quote there. And in Judge Knapp's view, there is no threat here, no ambiguity at all. This fellow, this Larry Bouchard, has the right to think and speak and write whatever he wishes, no matter how intemperate, no matter how indifferent, no matter how offensive it may be. And, right, you just can't punish speech like that when there's no criminal law broken. You can't throw a guy in jail simply because of what he reposts on Facebook. So don't let it happen in your town, folks. You make sure and you elect a sheriff who will defend you against tyranny, not bring tyranny to your doorstep. Sam?
There you have it. It's a critical issue, ladies and gentlemen. It's one we wanted to bring to your attention because, look, free speech, at first they came for Alex Jones, and I wasn't Alex Jones, right? I'm just telling you right now. Then they came for Doug, what's his name?
Larry Bouchard?
No, this huge talk show host.
Oh,
Tucker Carlson. Then they tried to come for Tucker Carlson and ban him. Pretty soon they'll be coming for me and you folks. That's really the key there. So let's be very, very, very careful indeed. But we will keep an eye on free speech, and we will follow these stories. And I just sent a message to Sheriff Richard Mack to say we got to talk about this case. I 100% disagree with what the guy's saying. But, folks, if we let him get taken down, we let this continue, it's going to be you and me next. And we've got to stand for free speech. If you say things I don't like, well, then I'll tell you why I don't like them, and I'll explain my side to the American people and let the American people think how they want to about it. You know, let the most educated, calm, kind, respectful, dignified, viewpoints win the day. Are we afraid of that? And if we are, why? I'm not afraid of going head to head with anybody and articulating what I think and believe and say and hope for and dream about and about liberty and God and family. And I'm not afraid of that one bit. and neither should they be. You know when they're afraid to have an open discussion and let all the facts come out, you know they've got an agenda subversive to the people. Remember that. All right, final story. This one's critical for you, your house, your property, Lowell, and it's something that most people aren't even aware of is happening.
Well, it's happening right here in Utah. They call them PIDs, or Public Infrastructure District. PID, P-I-D, Public Infrastructure District. And they're growing in popularity. I mean, it's like there's over 200 of them in Utah already. They can be, they can include any property they want. It doesn't have to be contiguous property. The district could be a section in Cedar City, also a section up in, in Morgan County. I mean, it doesn't matter. They could be all over the place. And some of them are, by the way. But here's what you need to know. These PIDs are being used by developers to socialize the cost of developing property while they privatize the profits, right? I mean, usually a developer has to go to the bank to borrow money to fund the costs of development. But now they're using tax dollars to fund the development of the property, and then they privatize the profits when they get paid back, and they get paid back by taxpayers who buy property in that PID, in that new public infrastructure district. And so here's what you need to know. If you're living in an area that has already been developed, don't worry about a PID. They're not going to come into an area that's already developed. But if you or your children or your cousins or mom or dad or sons and daughters or grandchildren, if they buy a piece of property in Utah that's in a new developmental area, right, then you need to check. They need to check at the county recorder's office to see whether that property is located within a PID, a public infrastructure district. Because if it is, that PID may be the cost, the paying taxes to repay the developer for his developmental costs might be the biggest ticket item on your property tax notice, right? Instead of just like $2,000 to pay that property tax on your house, you might have a $5,000 bill every year until that the costs of the development are paid back, and those go right to the developer.
Well, if you're not careful, like toll roads, they may never go away either, Lowell. There's no rule that says they can charge nothing after that and it gets disbanded. It's up to interpretation and manipulation going forward. Make no mistake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reason why is because it violates all the normal channels. Whenever you violate all the normal channels, you grant yourself special privilege, special control, special authority, special mandate, special manipulation. All that's up with these PIDs because they're contractual in nature, and the devil's in the details. That's what's going on, and it bypasses the normal public and the normal voting in circumstance channels, all in an effort of we have a housing crisis, a housing emergency. That's all true. But you can't then use that emergency, so-called, to then manipulate your way into special privileges for some at the expense of others. That's the tale, right?
Yeah, exactly. Spot on, Sam. No question. Yeah.
You got to reject that, ladies and gentlemen. And while you're at it, though, what you need to do is get a hold of Campaign for Liberty because they've got chapters all over the country. They're educating, they're activating, they're doing things that really make a difference. There's a few groups I have a lot of support for. I'm not a member of a lot of these groups because I try to be an independent talk show host, but I support them and have them on the radio because they bring tremendous information to the table. Ron Paul, Campaign for Liberty, is doing that. Young Americans for Liberty on college campuses. Charlie Kirk's TPUSA group is doing that. The John Birch Society is doing that. Liberty Council is doing that. Family Research Council is doing that. All these groups we bring to the table on Liberty Roundtable because they've got great information. If you want to plug into the Patriot movement, Liberty Roundtable is where you start, Lowell.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam, and I appreciate so very much the opportunity to be at the table from time to time and throw my 2 cents worth out there on the table for our listeners to hear. Because Liberty Roundtable is a great format and a great opportunity, great information all the time, Sam.
We're going to get Lowell's face on TV, ladies and gentlemen, I promise. Just give me some time. I got to work on it. I got a few guys that are a little bit resistant to the TV bug, but it's good for you. You'll look good on TV, Lowell. I'm pretty convinced.
Well, looking forward to it, Sam.
Okay, my friend, thank you very much. Lowell Nelson, everybody, campaignforliberty.org, doing a phenomenal job. He's got his hands in a lot of things about honest voting and voting integrity. I mean, Lowell's got his hands in so many things it's not even funny. He's involved in the Patriot movement big time in the great Olympic state of Utah, and hopefully we can teach the principles of liberty throughout the nation and around the world. For Lowell Nelson, campaignforliberty.org, I'm Sam Bushman, syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio and TV networks, lovingliberty.net. Download our iPhone or our Android app and listen to your heart's content. We're building video into the app, too, so keep an eye on that ball, will you? LovingLiberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.